Hello, everybody. Today we're going to be continuing to. No, we're not continuing. We're going to look at a scenario where somebody known as Peru goes ahead and forms an empire. Now, I honestly just came up with that in my head. I just looked around on the world map literally just as I started recording, and I found Peru. That's why I wasn't focused. So, this will be my second empire video for a modern day country. And of course, if you don't know these videos, Peru is going to be marked in red. And if you see anything that is red, that means that is Peru. So if you guys enjoy these videos, please make sure to like and subscribe. Currently, I think the day is Monday that I'm going to be posting this. And on the day I'm recording this, it's also Monday. So yeah, it's the Monday before. But like I said, please like and subscribe if you enjoy these videos. I would really appreciate that. And let's go ahead and get into this episode to the invasion of the country. Let's start with the invasion of Ecuador. Now Peru is it's a pretty strong country in South America. I would say Chile, Argentina, and Brazil as well as Colombia are stronger. But I think Peru averages in I think it could take Bolivia, Venezuela, and then the rest of the countries continent, and it honestly might be able to take Chile. I'm not sure, and it would fare up against Colombia very well. But just know that in this scenario, all places like the UN, the EU, NATO, uh, the Arabian Alliance, the Arabian Union, those no longer exist. The Gulf, what's it called? The Gulf Shield Defense Pact. Yeah, those don't exist. All world alliances do not exist, and it will just be created new for what Peru wants to do. Also, I will say the country that is in question is buffed, so that means that Peru will be buffed for this episode. Anyways, let's start the invasion of Ecuador. So Peru makes their invasion and starts with the invasion of southern Ecuador, which is a very important place for Ecuador as a country. Now, if you guys don't know, Ecuador and Peru once actually had a war. There's actually been 3 times that Peru and Ecuador have been in war. One in 1941, one in 1981, and then one most recently in 1995. Now, Peru technically won all 3 of those. The only major one was the 1941 one, where Ecuador actually lost land to Peru. But anyways, that means that these two have a rivalry against each other. It's fine modernly. They have resolved all their disputes. However, now since this country doesn't care about anything, they're starting to invade Ecuador again. So Ecuador is really going to not do good here. They're going to lose a lot of the southern coastline and even eventually almost their capital until it is very close. And I think they actually reach the capital of Quito. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. No, they haven't captured, but eventually they reach a city over here known as Santo Domingo and completely annex it. And then they go for the capital. But this is when Ecuador actually starts to fight back. Fight back in this region, which actually cuts off all of these Peruvian troops to make them and try to force them to go other ways. And well, that's what Peru does. It will send a large military up here to go invade from this area, and they puncture through as no Ecuador troops are in this area, and they immediately meet up with these troops right here, which pretty much separates all of the troops of Ecuador. Eventually, they now go ahead and capture Quito, and this country is falling pretty rapidly. And eventually, the coast is recaptured, and Ecuador is gonna go ahead and surrender over to Peru. Let's go ahead and take a look at this peace treaty. So all of Ecuador will be annexed by Peru, including the Galapagos Islands, and that is Peru's first target. And the next will go ahead, it'd be an ancient rivalry in Chile. So they go ahead and start their invasion of Chile. Well, it's not an ancient rivalry, but it's a pretty long-lasting rivalry. And when these two got independence, Peru and Bolivia went ahead and fought a war against Chile, and it did not go well. Unsurprisingly so. Well, actually, surprisingly so, Chile won against Peru, but well, probably won't happen in this time, considering Peru's buff, and they're also, well, they just took over Ecuador, giving themselves a lot more population, a lot more economy, and a lot more manpower overall. So they start their invasion and immediately capture the major city known. I have everything wrong. They capture the major city known as Arica, and start advancing into the Chilean province/state known as Tarapacá. they don't go down the coast and capture another major city and capture the city of Bequeat. And eventually they start pushing around and they capture the whole territory slash state known as Tarapacá. From here, the Chileans are going to do what they do best and go along the coast. However, it just doesn't go well for them as the Peruvian military seems to be just rolling through this area and seems to be just rolling through until they get to eventually all the way down here and, well, they cut off all of these Chilean troops that were heading towards. And Chile is, well, they're not happy. The cities known as Tocopilla, Chiquimanxa, and Calama have all been captured by the good old Peruvians. And those are some pretty big major cities. They advance down and do really good and eventually capture Antofagasta. And after that, all these troops are wiped out or just escape into the sea where they are nowhere to be found. Advancing a lot on south, we can see that Copiapo, eventually La Salina is captured. Eventually, the capital of Santiago is also captured all the way down south right here. And after that, a third party is going to join in this war, being Argentina, and they're going to join in, taking pretty much the rest of the land that is owned by Chile. And let's go ahead and take a peace treaty of Santiago. So in this peace treaty, we can say that Peru takes a lot and a lot of land. But that is when a new coalition forms up, that being of Argentina as well as Colombia. Other countries like Paraguay and Uruguay join this pact, while Peru gains a new ally, and the unexpected Brazil. So Peru gains Brazil as an ally, which they originally planned after they did all their invasions and geared up to invade. However, they feel like Brazil is a good kind of, well, a good target, well, a good ally for now, and can really show some support to the southern front line right here. And speaking of southern front line, we could see that the good old nation of Bolivia is going to get invaded. Now, Bolivia is a slightly, I mean, they're like one of the weakest in South America. They can do some stuff, probably, but, La Paz is gonna get captured. I know it's the jungles over here, but it's just Brazil, just two giants crashing down on them, and they don't survive it, surprisingly. Well, unsurprisingly. And let's go ahead and take a look at the peace tree. But before we do that, something bad happens. See, while the leaders meet in the pause to go and sort out a peace treaty, they're shot. They're shot by a Paraguayan troop, well, a Paraguayan assassin. Specifically, the leader of Brazil was shot. And both Brazil and Peru are not having that. So Brazil and Peru jointly go ahead and declare their wars on to Argentina and, well, the whole pack down here, and then, Colombia. So now this is a war. So Brazil's gonna focus on the front down south, while Peru's just gonna try to mainly focus on knocking out Colombia, along with some Brazilian people that are just in the Amazon. So about half the troops that invaded the, well, about half of the Brazilian troops that invaded Bolivia go up north to try to fight up here, and they do very good, taking a lot of the southern Colombian land and getting kind of close to Bogota. While the other half of the Brazilian military that invaded Bolivia is going to go ahead and move into Argentina and Paraguay, just taking a lot of land, as well as some more Brazilian troops, and now even conscripts that are being conscripted into the military. Uh, Paraguay is not having a good time. Argentina will be able to take over this whole Chilean area that is owned by Peru, and even push back on this front line right here. And they're actually doing way better than the Brazilians thought they would. However, Ecuador falls, so wrong color. Ecuador falls, so maybe not, and they get really, really close to Buenos Aires, so they try to relieve that city a little bit more, and eventually they and Colombia pushes back Brazil. However, they just can't push back the ravaging army of well, Peru. That pushes and captures the capital of Bogota. And eventually Colombia is gonna go ahead and surrender, knowing that their team can't win this war. So without the northern distraction that is Colombia, people are wondering, What? Uh-oh. It's not what I wanted to happen. I meant for to be like this. There we go. But it doesn't even matter anymore, as now, since the southern threat is over, or the northern threat is over, the southern threat is, well, now getting demolished. Chile is retaken and invaded. So, yeah, bye bye to all hope that was there. And eventually, Buenos Aires is going to be captured. Colombia is going to go ahead and surrender. And let's take a look at the Peace Treaty of South America. So, in this Peace Treaty, Peru actually just becomes the new Chile of South America. Since the actual Chile is gone. So basically, Peru takes a large bit of Colombia, as well as Brazil. They take about half of Bolivia and split it with Brazil, and half of northern Argentina and split it with Brazil. They also occupy Uruguay and Paraguay. Anyways, that is gonna do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I am gonna make the empire look a little different in the thumbnail because this is not too pleasing to look at. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.